a roll call, starting with Doreen.
Doreen Whitmer.
Brandy Pelletier.
Eunice Landry.
Eliza Drolet.
Tim Broderick.
Heidi Duford.
Howie Drolet.
Matt Jazokis.
All right, agenda review. I'll take a motion on the agenda.
Make a motion that we approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
So the one thing we're just gonna change, we're gonna move the data interventionist team up to, right after the first public input. Any other changes, additions? Nope. Seeing none, I'll take, a vote.
So
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I'll open approval of minutes for February 19th, 2026.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the board meeting of February 19th.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, I will open up our first public input. This one's for agenda items only. And seeing none, I'll close our first public input. And I'll invite up the data interventionist team.
Okay, hi. We back again. We're the Barnstead interventionists. We are just going to give you guys a quick update about our winter data. The packet that we gave you has all the comparisons and all the things we did last time, including the winter data, but this one we're just going to give you.
It's this one.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, the star
It gives
data.
you a brief, we're up here, we're just going to give you a brief rundown of what our winter data looks like, and that will give you more in-depth comparisons if you want to look at them.
This is it, isn't it?
This is all of us. I'm Tess Barbaro. I am 5 through 8 literacy intervention.
Hi, I'm Bray Dugan. I am K through 4 math intervention.
I'm Emily Gagne. I'm K through 4 Title I reading intervention.
And Kara St. Laurent, K4 reading.
And like I said, so the three assessments that we're going to run through for you guys during this presentation, we're going to do our STAR data, which will be reading and math, our DIBELS mid-year check-in, and then our USNS screener, which is our math screener for our littles. And so what we have here, this is just a breakdown of our STAR assessment and really what we're using it for. So our STAR assessment is a computer test. Our littles, K to 1, take the early literacy. That puts together our reading and our math into one 32-question test.
I think it's 34.
34-question test. And then from there, 2 to 8 takes a reading on one day and a math on another day. And the next part we're going to do is going to be show you the winter data of what those scores look like, and then how we are using them and moving forward from there.
All right, so this is our early literacy data. So this is kindergarten and first grade combined. On the left, you'll see the fall data, and then on the right, you'll see the winter. So you can see that there was an increase in the blue and green, which is very good, and a decrease in the red and yellow. But this is just an overall comparison. And then this is our STAR reading for 2 through 8. So this is a much larger number of kids. Just an overall comparison. If you need a more of a breakdown, that's in your packet by grade level.
So this is our STAR math data. This is also 2nd through 8th grade, so a much bigger portion of our students. If you take a look from fall to winter, they're remaining relatively consistent, but again, if you're wondering, oh, how did one grade go up or down, those breakdowns again are within your packet. It is always nice to see, for example, the red did go down about 2%. I know Matt talked about last time, it's all about moving the needle. It feels like a mountain, but it does shift, and we did see some improvement, which is always nice.
All right, so also talking about DIBBLES, which was a new assessment, as we kind of talked about in the fall, that we began this year. So this is only the second time the students have seen it, but the main purpose of it, it's essentially early identification and prevention. It's meant to inform instruction, and it acts as a dyslexia screener. So, and it assesses pretty much the core 5 pillars of the reading, everything with that. The only thing it doesn't do is writing. And their timed assessments, which can affect some of the students a little bit, which is why we sometimes will tell them it's timed, but also we don't always do that because we know it can stress a couple of the kids out. So this is our K through 4 winter DIBBLES data. And as you can see, we still have that shift starting to happen. You'll see the red is, well, in the comparison packet, you'll have the fall with the winter, but you'll start to see some of the reds starting to slide down a little bit and the greens are starting to increase, or that kind of directionality. But you'll also see that as they get into like 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, you really start to see those greens going up.
So this next one is 5 through 8. The 5 through 8 assessment is much shorter than the one that the littles take. There's a lot more components of those foundational skills that they assess. 5 through 8, we're looking at fluency and comprehension. 2 different time tests, like Kira was telling you. You can see, and I think I'm probably standing in most of your way, so I apologize. But you can see we have a shift from a lot of them. We have a lot of kids who are meeting and then some that are below. But when you look at the comparison, we did have a good shift of kids going from below to approaching and approaching to meeting. So we were moving in a great direction. We've been doing a lot of work, which we'll get into in a second, of what we're doing to help these go forward and what the whole school from top to bottom is really working on. So when we look at DIBBLES and STAR, this gets into the piece of, okay, what are we doing with the numbers? Where are we going? DIBBLES is more of a breakdown of what's going on. It really tells you more of what skills kids need. So if they need help with the phonemic awareness or if they need help with blending. STAR gives us an overall bigger chunk of what's going on, so every 3 to 4 months. So it's a bigger check-in on overall, how are you doing reading? Overall, how are you doing in math? But our smaller screeners are helping us identify what skills we need to work on.
Alright, so this is the universal screener for Number Sense USNS. I administered this to K through 2 in the fall and again this winter. Something I want to note is that in the fall when I gave this test, none of the students were writing. It was a much shorter assessment in the beginning of the year. And then the winter assessment took much longer. If in the beginning of the year it was about a 2 to 3 minute per kid, it has jumped now in the middle of the year to about, I want to say 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the student. They're writing. I expected, because of that, for scores to go a little bit down. I was pleasantly surprised. Okay, this is our results for kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade. I want to say the 4th to last page in your big packet gives you the comparison. But we've seen a lot of forward movement. And this is similar to DIBBLES. This will tell me, okay, this student really strong in this particular skill, but maybe they're still reversing all of their numbers. Maybe we want to lean into that, or whatever that skill may be. Kindergarten, super exciting. We didn't get any in this red urgent intervention, or for that matter, the intervention section. 1st grade, we have a couple students hitting that urgent, but as you can see, we have a lot of students really grasping this. And then moving into 2nd grade, still really strong, from my opinion. And then this helps me make the groups we're going in, even, for example, with kindergarten, still providing that to keep that up, as opposed to later on waiting and seeing where do we need to bridge this gap.
So this is the part where we're going to get into what we're doing with all of these numbers and really what's going on the ground and what our teachers, us, administration has been working a ton on. This is our win time. So for me, for the 5 through 8 is what I'll speak to, and then I'll pass it over to them on their end. 5 through 8, we've taken a lot of our time with teachers, with me, with administration, to really work on what we need and what kids need. So we have taken the assessments themselves, we've had conversations with teachers about, okay, this is the score, this is the skill we see that they need, how are we gonna give them what they need? So we have taken the time to pull the reports, find those skills that they need, and we're making groups so they have the 25 minutes of their win that they get. So every student in 5 through 8 is placed in a win group for 25 minutes. The win cycles themselves have been about 6 weeks. We're in the middle of our 4th one right now. So we are really taking the time to look at these numbers. We know that the numbers themselves are here, but we need to take them and really move forward and see what we're going to do with them. And this is the piece that has been a huge undertaking for us this year that really everybody is on board with, and we're moving forward in a great direction.
All right, K through 4, it looks a little bit different because not all of the win times kind of came together in a way that was gonna work for like that cross, like 5 and 6 shares and 7 and 8 shares. So we kind of worked on developing different things for each grade level with the multi-tiered system of supports. So data-driven targeted instruction is happening. So a lot of the groupings that are happening within the classrooms and the grade levels are based on skills and strategies. So those have been identified and they're working on focusing on that with the targeted instruction. Centers are also done throughout that, and they're designed to reinforce and enhance those skills and strategies, sometimes for the students who just need that reteach moment, and others who need a little bit of that expansion. And there's the teacher-directed small group instruction happening within that as well. Teachers have also been utilizing Lalilo and Freckle. I didn't Google that one to make sure I was pronouncing it right, because so many people,
The kids have corrected me many.
so many different ways. But this is a great tool because it actually creates a personalized learning path for those students because it is connected to the STAR assessment data. So all of those lessons in that path is for each student. So that's already providing that targeted instruction and additional kind of reteach moments. And then there's support from interventionists going in there where we have some classroom rotations happening, as well as some of the pull-out groups.
Looking forward, this is what really our overall big goals from K-8, where we're going, what the thoughts are. So the reason we're looking at all this is to have a more responsive approach to what our kids need. So we're seeing our scores, and now we're doing something with those and moving in a direction that we need to be going on. We're checking on it very often. We're doing these intermittent assessments, thank you. Intermittent assessments to make sure that what we're doing actually is working. We're not just throwing assessments at kids, checking in every 6 months and hoping that it's working. We're taking the time to check in a lot to make sure that the skills that they're getting, they're obtaining, and okay, now where are we going next? What other skills do we need to bridge those gaps that we are seeing in some of our data, but where are we going from there?
And we're also doing a lot of collaboration and support for teachers with instructional planning and that cross-curricular goals. So we're available to them to help them with their planning and different resources and guides. So, as well as, obviously, our main goal is the system-wide alignment. That's a huge aspect of what we're doing. And through that, our goal is that with more collaborative, data-driven approach, we will see meaningful improvement of our New Hampshire SAS scores over time.
And one piece that I forgot to add, last time that we were here, we presented to you guys a lot of the SAS scores. There's a question about the science SAS scores, and I didn't have it for you. It is in that packet now. They only take science in 5th and 8th grade at our school, but it goes back a few years. So if you look in there and you have any questions about that, you can send emails to Matt if that's easier. All of our information is on the website, so whatever is the easiest way for you guys to get in contact if you have questions.
Mhm.
It's a deep dive packet, but we thought it was a better approach than deep diving up here and the way we did the first time around. Quite honestly. That's what we got for you.
Thank you very much.
I'd just like to add that, these guys have done a tremendous amount of work in a short period of time. And not only here, but also collaborating with ACS. We meet on a monthly basis and really talk about what's going on in both schools to see if there's some overlap and things of that nature. And I know that they reach out to one another on a more consistent basis, which is a good thing because, you know, there are a lot of similarities going on in both schools, so it's helpful to be able to bounce ideas off of each other. And, you know, the idea of this looking at data, well, we've had data in the past and people have looked at it, but I think it's been in pockets. It hasn't been a consistent thing where we're working with teachers on a consistent basis, looking at data and what is it actually saying to us. And these guys have been at the forefront of that piece of it. At the beginning of the year, I asked them to jump in with both feet and build a plane as we were flying it, and they've done exactly that. And so I commend them for their work that they've done.
And I think the relationship between some of the technology tools, you highlighted this tonight, right? The relationship between some of the technology tools and how they tie into the assessment data that we have is also a change, right? You've had assessment data, like Matt just said, you've had all kinds of technology tools in the past, but these are tools that connect with the data. So they're really purpose-driven. They're all about trying to improve student outcomes. And it's not a coincidence that Matt Jazokis has been sitting with Matt Dumont on our technology committee for the last handful of years to make sure that this alignment happens. And my last thing is, these are 4 certified educators. One of the things we've done here, and I know there's been controversy about some of the changes we made in the school, is we have fewer support staff positions. We've actually eliminated, due to enrollment, some certified staff positions, but we've added certified staff positions in intervention. So over time, we have fewer adults running around the building. We're paying everybody a little bit better, but when you're not paying as many people, you can do that. But we have 4 certified educators in intervention roles in a school where we know improving student achievement really is job 1. This is what we need. Great job, everybody. Thank you.
Any questions?
It's great to see. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, just to add to what Matt said, but being on the literacy committee, like I've seen just the true connection between Barnstead and Alton and even the high school, like, and not just the literacy work, but just about like, oh, I'm presenting this data, like, how would you do that? And like, so seeing that level of teamwork, it's really amazing, because years ago, I know when I started on the board, that was the big thing. It was like, we're all like feeding the kids up to the same school, but we were like in silos. And
We were doing our
so-
own thing.
Yeah, so it's awesome to see. I think it's also awesome to see, again, certified people. Like, there's been clearly a gap with intervention needs for so long, and I think what was happening was the people that really, really needed interventions might be getting some support, but we were losing more people along the way. So it's good to see that we're like having a plan for everyone, like even the kid that is above, how are we keeping them above? So great work.
Something I wanted to add
Yeah.
really quickly is, while for the USNS screener, obviously the assessment isn't showing us everything, but something I look towards is, in the beginning, the student was in green and suddenly they're in yellow or red. That to me is more interesting than a student who stayed at blue both times almost. So it's sort of like catching early, like Tess was saying. The more we can take a look at what's going on, the more we can give students what they need, so.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Thank
Liza, I'm glad that you brought that point up. I think that 4 years ago when I started, if you walked into the professional development day, you could say, well, there's the Barnstead staff, there's the Alton staff, and there's Prospect Mountain. And now when you walk into a room, like you can't delineate who's where, because it's the connections that they've made. The teachers have gone out of their way to make those connections, and so it's really nice. It's more about us versus them or me and you type of thing, so.
Yeah. And the kids are the benefit of that. So.
Absolutely.
And there's another group of kids who I want to make sure that we mention too. It's those kids that are always on grade level. So what we've done is part of, they have their group. So they work on extension projects. They work on maybe a higher level of essay writing with a deeper topic. They might do something, a project that's of interest to them. So, it's just, intervention, we certainly focus on the kids that need the interventions and, need some skill building. But there's also that group of kids who we're giving extension to, and we're letting them sort of discover things that they might want to do. So, so we're trying to meet every kid's needs throughout the building, whether they need intervention or whether they just need, a push. So, and as, our teachers and these guys have done a great job, so.
I was gonna just because like bringing up SAS and everything. Third and fourth grade in particular are using their win block time right now to actually go through those modules and make sure they're showing the kids what the test looks like, what are the tools they can use, and how they can apply the strategies that they have been taught this year to that assessment. Because especially the third and fourth grade, it's their first time or only their second time seeing it. So they do need a little bit more of that guidance and a little bit more of that structure to be able to help them. So that way they're not overwhelmed when they look at this massive amount of work that suddenly is presented in front of them in a strange format that they've not seen before, and they don't know where the tools are. So they're really taking the time to go through and do that with them.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
And you're free to go if you'd like.
Or you can stay. Thanks, guys.
All right, we've got the principal's report.
All right, good evening, everyone. So my enrollment report is attached, so we are currently sitting at 409 students, and we had a 4-student decrease from last month. We had our first session of collegial coaching with Mike Anderson. This is where we have a group, we have 3 groups of 6 teachers each, so there are 18 teachers in our building that are getting this training through Mike. And they had their first session. Mike sort of went through the process of how we're gonna go about collegial coaching, he talked about feedback. And then the next time that he comes in, which I believe is next week, they're gonna actually go in and observe a lesson being taught by someone in their cohort. And then they're gonna come back and they're gonna give feedback to that staff member. So it's gonna be a great way for our teachers to continue to help one another, continue to grow. You know, we mix the group, so we might have a kindergarten teacher observing an 8th grade math teacher, which is totally fine, because it's all about teaching, you know, pedagogy and whatnot. So, so the first session went really, really well. We had our 8th grade registration today, where the Prospect Mountain counselors were here, and they were registering kids for their classes for next year. Also today we had the Lions Club visit BES, and thanks to our school nurse Martha Rathbridge for setting that up. And this is where the Lions come in and they conduct a school-wide vision screening, and it hasn't been done since 2018. So I'm glad that we were able to organize that and get that done. Our 4th graders yesterday visited the State House in Concord, which is one of their traditional 4th grade trips, and that went really well. And we have our spring base clubs that are ongoing, and next report I can get you some numbers in terms of how many kids are participating. But again, we have jewelry making, we have outdoor games, intramural sports. We have mathletes, which I believe I'm not sure if it's this spring or if they're looking at it for next spring, but they're actually gonna compete. So Ms. Wheeler started an athletes group, which are gonna, and I think she is looking to possibly hold a spring, I don't know what you,
I don't know what you call it.
right, tournament, you know, right here at Barnstead. So that's pretty
So are
exciting.
there other middle school teams out
Yeah,
there?
yeah, so she'll invite some other mathletes clubs from the area. So and then we have modern band practice and canvas painting. So we've got a wide variety of clubs that are being offered.
I think there's a modern band concert Friday.
Yep, Friday night tomorrow. Yeah.
So the one thing I will say about that, my freshman is in it, and he's told me about it, but he's not always the most reliable individual, and so I still have yet to see anything in writing about that. I don't know if you guys put something out here, but like we canceled plans, we had other plans, and now I'm like, is it really happening? Because no one has mentioned it.
Yeah.
Is it the one that Jude mentioned last night?
No,
Okay, so it's a
he
different
mentioned
one.
like the regular band. This is like the rock band.
Oh.
Like you
Yeah,
came
that-
to it last time.
Yeah, it was really good. I
Yeah.
haven't heard anything about it, but
Supposedly it's
also,
Friday night at 6.
So our
Right.
kids are gonna go up to the high school
But
and
yeah,
join
it's
the-
gonna be the first time middle school kids
Mhm.
I
are
love
doing
when
it.
I love when you guys do that.
Because there is like kids here playing guitar
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
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 so-
So our discipline count is for March, so our decrease from February and
Well,
is
I looked at
actually.
the numbers, I was like, they're great, but it's only half.
Well, all of these are really half because I report them, I have to submit the report about halfway through the month.
Yeah, but isn't like now that the month's gone, those are full numbers, right?
As of last week, yeah, as of last Friday,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so March doesn't look quite as stellar as I thought it did. You know what I mean? Like, because I was like, oh my gosh, it's like almost half. but
Right.
Maybe not.
But, yeah, you're correct, yeah, yeah. And then our student support, team still continues to function at a pretty high level. We had 3 more, initial referrals, and then we did 5, kids on progress monitoring. We had to cancel the first month, or the first meeting in the month, so that's why those numbers are down a little bit, but, again, I can't say enough about, you know, that team and how it's functioning, and, you know, we're putting supports in for kids that need them, and then we're monitoring those kids, and, you know, we're doing, you know, we're doing a lot of work, we really are, and, you know, from our teachers to our paraeducators to our interventionists, like, you know, they're just, our staff is working very, very hard, to meet all the kids where they are, you know, academically, social, emotionally, behaviorally, so we're heading in the right direction on a lot of things, so. Does anybody have any questions?
I just real quick, just 2 things. I've probably said this before, but just thank you to those teachers, staff. I don't know if this is volunteer-based, but for those getting involved with those spring-based programs, coming up with the different ideas, maybe bringing a completely new program to BES, I think that's wonderful. So just want to say thank you, because I think the kids look forward to trying new things and seeing what they like, and it's not always a sport that's offered, it might be something different, so I just want to say thank you. And I just had a quick question, just to kind of gauge and get your thoughts, regarding the student support team, and I know we're making, some changes there, and it's a lot of work. Is there anything else we need to be doing to support the staff and the students on the day-to-day? And I'm kind of asking just from like a behavioral aspect. 'Cause is there
I mean-
anything else that you can think of? They're like, we need this and we need this in Barnstead, and is it something we need to have?
Yeah,
a conversation
you know,
on?
the one thing that we see is adults,
Yeah,
you know, yeah, a lot of these kids, their behavior is triggered by adult attention, and, you know, and it's not that, you know, we don't have them, like, we just can't find people to come into the building and work as paraeducators and support staff and that thing. So, you know, I think that you guys have given us everything, and we're, you know, we're putting these things in place, but it's just, you know, we could always use, you know, if 8 people walk through the door with applications and 8 qualified people, I'd love to have it, because we're about 8 paras short about where we should be.
yeah.
But, you know, other than that, I mean, we've got pretty much everything in place, and I know that Matt's gonna talk a little bit about capturing kids' hearts, but again, I spoke to the staff yesterday at our meeting and reiterated the fact that this is gonna be a game changer
Yeah.
for us. It
Yeah,
really is.
I didn't ask it last month, but it's pretty compelling, you know, everyone here works so hard, but I just wonder, is there anything more that we need, and that's probably what it is
Yeah.
a
No,
qualified adult in the room
yeah.
to really intervene with the kids that need that support, okay,
Yep.
thank
And
you.
and the some of the staff members that went through the training spoke at our PD day,
Yeah.
and you know, every single one of them had the same story about how impactful it was and how hopeful they are, and I think everybody walked away with the same feeling of this can really change things and move the needle where we want it to be, so, I think there's a lot of excitement around that.
Thank you.
So next up, we have our special education report. Any questions about that? Alright, we've got, I don't think there's a buildings and grounds report in there. Did you see one?
Yes,
Oh,
after the
I see it.
financials.
Sorry. Any questions related to that? And then Eunice, what do you have for a construction update?
Nothing really new. Progress continues. A lot of the floor has been poured in the gym area and locker rooms, that whole area, so, they were working on details for the kitchen plan. It will be starting in, I believe in May, working in the kitchen, so. And a few people that I talked to, either from voting or from the town meeting, were very impressed with what they saw.
The
when they-
bathrooms
Yeah.
They are impressive.
They are, and you could actually peek in the door and see the new offices, and, yeah. Somebody even said, I didn't even know where I was supposed to go, it looks so different. That's very nice. And our next meeting is tomorrow, so.
Alright, next up we have our financial reports. Heidi, anything to add?
Not really, still looking okay. Gonna work with administration to make sure we get everything encumbered and bought, so we can have a clear picture of what will be left at the year end.
I noticed last night at the high school meeting, we approved a driver for one of the vans. Have we made any progress with that for here? or-
She's going through training right now, and then, Mr. Borsch has been working on how to combine routes so she can transport at least 2, maybe 3 students, because we're paying a lot per student for individual rides, so if we can
Yeah, I
eliminate
looked
2
at
or
the
at least
overage
3,
in the sped
that's our goal.
transportation.
It might mean that if we can get, for example.
Students here, not out of.
This is for out-of-district placements.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, so this is what it is, which is why she needs a special license, because our staff, any of our staff can drive students in vans we own from our school to any school-related activity and back.
Right.
But to take a student from school to home or pick them up at home and bring them to school, you need a special license. It's an interesting little facet of the law. So this driver who we've hired is going through training now. She's been a bus driver before, so should be no problem. And then if we can get, for example, 2 Barnstead students and an Alton student, that might end up being the case, who go to out-of-district schools located near each other. In Rochester and Somersworth, for example, there are a few schools that we send some students to. So a trip like that, we would divide the cost. You'll have a
And what
great
about
time
the
with
van?
this. We would divide the cost 2/3 and 1/3, right? And see the savings in those special ed transportation lines.
Because on the budget,
So
the
that's
big
where we're
overage
headed.
is
Oh,
in
yeah.
sped
Yes, there is.
transportation.
Yep, and it's one of our big increases in the proposed fiscal '27 budget, as you know. $280,000 increase in elementary special ed transportation. I don't even have to look.
So if all of that works out, I mean, we have it in the budget because we need it,
We have to.
but if this works out, it might end up being a savings on that proposed
Yes,
line.
and
item.
ideally, and you all know, we've been advertising, we've owned these vans for a couple of years, we've been advertising for drivers, finding people who wanna work what amounts to 4 hours a day, but 2 of them in the morning and 2 of them in the afternoon. I mean, in this case, we found someone it's kind of perfect for because of her family situation, which is nice. And then, having that person willing to go through a couple of weeks of training so they can do it. We pay them during that training. That seems reasonable. We're trying to recruit in a very competitive, difficult.
Yeah, and that's
Labor
why the
market.
rate changed like multiple times, right? Because like as
So
they're
what we're
training.
doing is, what we decided is rather than compete with first student, we're paying what first student pays its drivers. So did you see 3 rates with dates? That's what first student's current driver labor agreement calls for. They've agreed to these 3 rates changing on those dates. So we simply said, because if we paid less than that, how long would it take our driver to figure out she should go work for first student?
Well, I tell you, personally speaking, if I used to be a bus driver and now I could be a driver of a van, I would be excited.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, for the right person, it's a wonderful situation, very flexible. During the school year, summer school optional, we'll need it, but it doesn't have to be the same person. We always have other solutions, but our first choice is to have our own driver. So, you know, we're excited to have someone sort of in the works, getting ready within a couple of weeks, hopefully, starting to drive. And in a perfect world, it ends up being 1 ride for 3 students, and a really significant difference in our budgets.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Why is debt service so high? Under budgeted?
Debt service, that's the bond payment.
So,
So when by the July, you'll have the rest of the balance?
It's paid, but that's the amount. That's why we're in the red.
Okay.
we already encumbered it all for this year.
Yeah.
So there's a summer payment, but it'll come out of fiscal '27.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Any other questions? All right, Matt, you're up.
Yep. So last night you heard about the vertical alignment, so I don't need to repeat that in the literacy committee where they're at. Howie did make mention of capturing kids' hearts. And so we sent the team, our team reps, in February to attend their flagship training. And part of this was something I brought to the team reps and said, if you want to attend this meeting or this flagship training, you can go there. And there's sort of no strings attached. If you come back and you say this isn't for us, then we move on, and we had 2 days of training and understood what it was. When that group came back, actually I was being texted while they were there. It was an overwhelming success. One individual who said that in the 20-plus years that they've been attending workshops, they've always dreaded going to them because they always leave disappointed. And this particular individual, partway through the first day, was excited to go to the second day. This individual needed to leave early for some other thing that was going on, and was disappointed that they had to leave because they were that engaged in what was happening. And so, as Howie also explained, we did have 2 representatives come out to talk to both ACS and BES at our PD day. And we asked if anybody wanted to get up and talk, and we had almost everyone that attended it get up and talk. Individuals that aren't those individuals who like to stand up in front of large crowds to speak did so. It just kind of shows you that what they felt in both cases. The outcome was, this is something that we should have here at BES. And so next month, I will be bringing in a proposal to you for capturing kids' hearts. It requires a 2-day training. And the nice part about this process is that this isn't a one-and-done training. This is a multi-year thing where they stay connected with us. We go through the flagship training, but also as the year progresses, we start to identify those individuals who are on board, fully on board, and really kind of wanting to do more. So we start to do the train-the-trainer model. They don't have that, they don't call it that, but this way, as new people come in, we can have our internal people work with them on what this is. It's really hard to describe like what the training looks like because you have to be there for it, right? But what this does is it provides a common language, K through 8. This is really a K through 12 program, but we're working on our elementaries now. We'll start talking about the high school in a year or so. But it's a K through 8 common language. It's about adult relationships. It's working with the adults. We have certain adults that have great relationship with kids and it's second nature to them. But what happens is that, and I'll use Christine for example, if I go to Christine and say, how do I work with this kid? She will try to say how she does it, but sometimes it's not that easy to transfer that knowledge into that person next door. And now all of a sudden that kid's coming into their class in the next 5 minutes. And so this is a process where it helps adults understand how to work with students, how to build those relationships, again, because of the consistent language, the things that we're doing. And it is K through 8. So whatever classroom you go into, we should be using the same language, having the same things that are the charters and things of that nature. So right now we have the pyramid model in our K1, and that's been kind of up and down a little bit, right? But then when you start going into grades 2 through 6, or excuse me, K through 2 through 4, you're doing morning meeting. But then you get to 5 through 8, you're doing advisory, and everything's a little bit different, right? There's some similarities to those things, but they are different. This provides that K8, and so as the kids go up through the rankings, they know what to expect, they know what the language, and some of our teachers have already started using that already because it's that quickly you can transfer that in. And I think the key is that this isn't like new. It's not like, hey, everything you've ever done, stop doing it because this is better. This is taking some of the things that you're already doing and then just enhancing that. But some things that you might not be doing, you can start doing, and that's gonna help you create that. One school in New Hampshire, Newport, has instilled this at the beginning of this year. Pretty tough community. They saw a decrease in the first quarter by about 115 incidences that dropped in Tier 1. So it's immediate in that piece of it, right? It's not eliminating it, right? It's not going to eliminate, but what it's going to do is stop taking Tier 1 behaviors and automatically escalating them into Tier 2 or 3. Because we can't sustain with the amount of things that you see here, you can't sustain that over time. So this helps reduce that. And then it gives us the opportunity to really focus in on those kids that need that Tier 2, that Tier 3, just like we would do with academics, right? So again, this is being driven by our team reps, and so hopefully by having that process, it builds that collaboration. And this is also going to help us connect with ACS because they're going to be doing the same thing, having the same language and stuff like that. So our kids, again, that alignment process heading up the hill to Prospect. So that'll be coming in April. I'm going to invite some of the team reps to come as well so they can speak. I don't want to speak for them. They can speak on their behalves. But I think it's something that's pretty powerful.
So we could see teachers like implementing it, some already, and others by like as soon as May? Or
This will
it
be
would
for next
more
year. It'll be next year, yeah, because we had to work out the training dates, but it would
Okay.
be something that we would expect beginning next year that everybody's taking part in.
Awesome.
So, yep.
Exciting.
I was gonna ask that too, when?
I know.
What's
That's
that?
great. I was gonna ask when.
Yeah.
It sounds great.
So I'm working with them now, capturing kids' hearts on the proposal. I'm working on potential dates for training. I'll work with the team reps from both schools to talk about what that looks like.
And from a financial standpoint, like we have money for professional development, is that kind of
Yeah, we'll have to
gonna
take a,
be in there?
we'll
or
have to look at
grants
different
or-
funding sources. They have, so this is a company out of Texas, and they're huge in the Midwest, and they want to be in New England. They're pushing, so we would be one of the first couple
Maybe
districts.
we can get a break.
Yes.
Help us help.
Yeah, so that's been I made it very clear to them, like, this isn't something that we budgeted for.
Yeah.
If the finances work out and the boards approve
We
it,
can be
great.
like a case study for New England. or-
Exactly.
yeah.
And if it doesn't, like I said to them, it's simply, we have to budget it, and we're looking at fiscal year '28 of implementation. Like, that's not ideal for us. So they understand how budgets work and stuff like that, and so I think they're willing to work with us, so. Christine, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
I think what is amazing about the whole process, the whole experience, is that it's about understanding the perspective of others, and it's your mindset and how you can move forward and make a difference with how you're approaching things and thinking about things. And just their presentation, like there was one part where the presenter talked about this person sitting next to them on the plane, and they kept on grabbing their hand, and I thought to myself, they could have made that in a negative, they could have made that be a negative experience, but instead, they embraced it as something that that person needed, and they turned it into something so positive. And I think one of the things that I appreciated so much is that it's about the adults starting first. And then this phrase has stayed with me since the training. If you don't know them well enough to put them up, then you don't know them well enough to put them down. And I think that's very important for us all to remember that.
More to come.
Awesome. Any other questions for Matt? All right, Tim?
Okay. Oh, just one thing, good. Okay, I've put 3 documents on the table in front of you. You know, we've got a big annual meeting coming on Saturday. Typically, we use this school board meeting to talk about who might make motions and seconds and things like that. Back home at the office, Sarah is working on binders for all of you. So as you flip through the binders, you'll find this information that's here in draft form tonight. The warrant that's here, you'll actually have a tab for each article, so you'll be able to flip, and it'll include, as this says, motion and second, so we can put that right there for you. You might remember, I think the last 2 years, I've given you bulleted kind of information points on each. I've been working on those a little bit. I'll get them wrapped up. You know, I think I usually email those to you on Friday. That's typical for me. I've been working with Jason a little bit. He had some specific things that he wanted to make sure I brought. He's anticipating there could be some, questions about what if something were reduced. So he gave me a list of things that he thinks it would make sense to talk about. For example, what if we didn't fund the 3 buses that take kids from Barnstead to the high school? How much would that save? So I've got a list of things like that, and I'll get all that data together, and we'll provide all that. I thought tonight, as we've done in the past, it might make sense to kind of just take a look through this. There's a draft of the PowerPoint here that we typically put up with the projector in the room, and then on the pink sheet, and I know your agenda's pink, I'm sorry. It just had to be a color, and I picked the wrong one. Here's a draft revenue sheet, because this year, I think it's gonna be important to talk about revenue. And this revenue sheet and the beginning of the PowerPoint, I think, sort of explain why it makes sense to talk about revenue. So if you look at the PowerPoint, the moderator, Mr. Savage, opens the meeting. Warrant Article 1 is to open the meeting. If it's okay for me to do it, that's typically what you've been doing. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slides here, sort of an overview. And the construction project update makes sense. I think you've probably all heard by now. We're going to have Milestone employees here Saturday morning, and as people are arriving and parking for the meeting, they can come in through the new addition. They're gonna be able to walk through it. They're gonna be able to see the floors are all poured, the walls are framed. It's a construction site, but Milestone's making it safe. This is our plan. We're gonna wrap up the details tomorrow at our bi-weekly construction management meeting. But they'll be able to walk right in by the trailer, walk through the building, and then come up through the D-wing end door and come down and around to the meeting. That means they'll miss the bathrooms and the new intervention offices where the folks who were here earlier work, but we'll talk about those early in the meeting and when there are breaks or whatever. Those are also the closest bathrooms now. It used to be you would leave the cafeteria and there were bathrooms right outside the door. Now people are gonna go down the ramp to the old lobby and new bathrooms, which look great. You've all seen that by now, I think. So there's a little bit there about the schedule for finishing the renovation. I also think it's important, we haven't talked a lot about when things will be open. And here there's notification to the public that, look, the new gym and the classrooms in this addition should be open in the fall. The new kitchen and cafeteria should be done, fully renovated and open in the fall. So I think there's some nice news there. The next 3 line graphs, we'll have those as a handout separately. These are required by a new state law, you might have heard about it this year. We've been required to put these on our website and to post them at the polling places. We've had them posted at the SAU and at our schools at least 7 days prior to voting. So we've actually had these out for quite a while. We did this in January and February. By law, we had to print them on a certain size paper. We had to make inflation adjustments using the Bureau of Labor Statistics online CPI calculator, which we did. So these are inflation adjusted, which actually is great for us. I'm not sure these look as good for a lot of school districts as they do here, but in inflation adjusted dollars, our average cost per pupil went down 3 years in a row and has been inching back up a little, but is significantly lower the last 5 years than it was the previous 5. Our average teacher salary, we're not paying teachers less, remember this is inflation adjusted, but we have overall a less experienced staff. We did have a couple of years with 10 or 12 people, positions a year turning over. I'll be surprised if it's more than 4 this year. That's where I think we are.
Well, yeah, and I think, you know, it does tell a story that somebody might say, well, we should be paying our teachers more. Well, we negotiated a contract last year that will support bringing in experienced teachers, and
Right.
it didn't previously, so.
And we do have a couple fewer. This proposed budget cuts a position because we have 31 students in first grade, so that'll be 2 second grade classrooms instead of 3. So when people in the meeting want to talk about reductions in force and eliminating positions, well, okay, we're doing it where it makes sense based on enrollment. We're not doing it to put 25 kids in a first grade classroom, which would be a disaster, I can promise.
Yes.
I know we used to do it, but it is actually different these days, and anybody who works here will tell you it is actually different these days. The third chart I like a lot because I think you can see where we started shared services, and you can see the change in the total cost of administrator salaries. This is going to, we're going to see more savings next year, and then I think it might stabilize. But you're going to see more savings next year because of changes in special ed.
And when we talked about it earlier, the increases are because we've seen the need for increased administration. You know, we added the assistant superintendent, we added the dean of students,
Yeah.
which are very valuable.
Right.
So, I mean, we got somebody working basically right now strictly on curriculum and aligning things
And the net effect has still been a reduction though,
Right.
because you went from 3 superintendents, 3 special ed directors, 3 to, okay, we have an assistant superintendent, but we have 1 superintendent, we have 1 special ed director. So overall, we've got savings, but I think, and I appreciate you saying it, we're seeing some improvements in quality based on what we're able to have people specialize in.
Right, but my point was a significant drop when we went to just you,
Yeah.
but then it's
A little bit back up.
it's going back up a little
But
bit.
I think, right,
but then
it's an
it's
investment on
basically
what we need
stabilized,
though,
yes.
right? Like
Right.
we need, and I don't think there's anybody that has a child in the schools that doesn't recognize we need some curriculum work, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah, I think
And
we're
we're,
doing the
and
right
we're actually
things.
seeing some results, which has been kind of
Yeah.
fun this year. So the law, when we post these charts, so these are all required by law. Even the vertical axis, I think you all might have seen an email about
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
The vertical axis has to be set a certain way under the law. These comply. When we post them, we can't add anything else. We're not supposed to add anything else or editorialize. But for this presentation, I added the dashed red line so that people would see this is where the joint board sort of collectively established a strategic plan. We have 7 strategic objectives, shared services, open enrollment, all that. That's where it started. And you really do see a beneficial financial impact in the school district in the years since then. Obviously, I'm trying to send a message here about the board's leadership and fiscal conservatism because I understand we've got more than a 12% increase in total spending for next year. So that is going to be an issue. And that brings me to revenue. which is where I started, and this last slide. And these are our open enrollment revenue projections under the language of the current law. So this year, we're going to bill, and these are estimates, but they're pretty good. We're gonna bill about $467,000 for the 30 students who are at Prospect Mountain High School. Next year, with the capacity the joint board approved last night, we should end up billing, I estimated, just over $1 million in revenue, and it goes from there. I think talking to the taxpayers about this is very important when you look at our anticipated revenues sheet, where our anticipated revenues are down. And the first place you notice is next to the adequate education grant, where last year we received over $3.3 million in state adequacy and differentiated aid, and we're only in line to receive $2.8 million next year. It would be easy to assume that's because of a reduction in enrollment, but it's not. We have had a slight reduction in enrollment, and that cost us less than $50,000 in state aid. But this is more like $500,000. So what happened? I spoke with Mrs. Landry this week about how to make this simple for people to understand. There's a component of state aid called the Extraordinary Need Grant. Last year, Barnstead qualified for an Extraordinary Need Grant of $466,000, and that's included in that $3.3 million. For next year, Barnstead does not qualify for an Extraordinary Need Grant. So we lost $466,000 in state aid from fiscal 26 to fiscal 27. What that's based on is a formula that's supposed to estimate how needy the community is compared to property value. So equalized valuation went up a little bit, and the number of students on free and reduced lunch went down a little bit, and we just got outside of qualifying for this grant.
Yep.
That's a really big loss in state aid. And the only thing you can do, you're elected officials, so when one of your constituents asks, is suggest that they talk to their state reps, and one of them might be there on Saturday. That's just a suggestion. Because this formula gets tweaked by the legislature every 2 years.
Yep.
And we live with it. And I'm
Okay,
sure
what
that
is
when
that?
they're tweaking it, they don't always understand what the impact is going to be. So we're losing almost $500,000 in state aid because Barnstead is being considered wealthier than it used to be
Which we all know is not. the
under
case.
this formula.
Which we all know, when they reevaluated the town, yeah, they didn't exactly do it fairly, but, so we're not all as rich as they think we are.
The other thing that you'll
Those are dry
see
valleys.
on this estimated revenue sheet, and this is the first time you'll see it, is near the bottom, you see open enrollment tuition. And you see an estimate of $254,360. That number is 54.45% of the $467,144 we estimated as revenue for fiscal 27. So those are the kids who are at Prospect now. Those invoices will go out sometime in the next several weeks. And this is assuming we collect that revenue. But even if we don't, our auditors at this point, especially after the Supreme Court decision that came out in October, are likely to book this as receivables and have us send the money back anyway, we think.
Okay.
We'll know for sure when the auditors show up. So it makes sense to start reporting this revenue, and I think, again, understanding that debt service starts phasing in to the tax rate, it's important to show people this anticipated revenue chart and say, look, 54 and almost 0.5% of 467,000 is this 254,360 next year. In fiscal 28, expect about 55% of $1 million. The following year, think 56% of more than $1.5 million. One of the purposes of open enrollment, every time I talk about open enrollment, I'm supposed to talk about students first. Sorry, I was just about to talk about the money first. I'm supposed to talk about the purposes of open enrollment are to create better opportunities for students and to bring revenue into the school district to reduce the need for property taxes. Other school districts are not doing this. We're doing it. And this is where the rubber meets the road, and this is the year to really talk about it. Because
We're not
then,
doing K through 6 though, are we? Not yet.
not yet, that article was on this warrant.
I'm gonna tell you, that's gonna be a tough one.
So but it's not to put kids in this school.
Well,
0 kids in this school under open enrollment. It's exclusively
It's
to
for
allow
the
students to enroll in the
online,
online school.
yeah.
That's it, it's the only reason. So all of this up front brings us to warrant Article 2, the budget. And then, how do you wish to proceed? Somebody's going to make a motion. Well, this will be moved by the chair of the budget committee, Eunice, is that what usually happens?
yes.
And then seconded by,
Jason.
so some of the talking points, I think the essential information is on the slide. That the big increases in the budget are tuition to the high school, our special ed transportation, and then all the other increases amount to $88,500. Then there's the debt service on the construction bond. And the tax impacts of both are on the slide. And I understand this is going to be a discussion, but that's why we have the meeting, right? If there's specific sort of detailed talking point information you want, besides I've already had conversations with Eunice and with Jason, and we have some ideas from our budget committee what needs to be on that bulleted list. Tell me now, or send me an email, or something, okay? But I'm assuming that kind of is gonna kind of speak for itself, everybody already knows.
Yeah, I think, I know in talking to Jason last night, he said he was gonna give you all
He
the
did.
different
Yep.
things, but I think it's really just, having the talking points about if there's a reduction made, what that would truly look like what would be reduced, because most of this is stuff that we have to pay for, like you can't not pay for special education or.
That's why we did that. That's the 31, right?
I mean, I think that came up last year when they were talking about the reduction. And, you know, we talked about it would impact the children, you know? It would be eliminating athletics or eliminating clubs or, you know? So
So the numbers I plan to bring already, I can just give you the list real quick here. So I told you high school busing, right? That makes sense to talk about. It's not required in New Hampshire. Middle school athletics. Other extracurricular activities at the elementary school. And then, field trips. And then what does the average teacher total compensation amount to, right? What is a position basically worth, so. Those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that I plan to bring, specifics with numbers, like here's what this would save. Doesn't mean you would have to cut those things, but obviously if you start that discussion at a meeting and then somebody ends up making a suggestion and it gets reduced,
When you
people will make
mentioned,
assumptions.
you might have said this, I apologize, when you mentioned busing, is that our transportation to the high school only? Cause we still
Yes.
require it for K through 8.
You
We
have
are
to.
required by
Yeah.
state
I
law
thought so.
to provide transportation for students who live more than a mile from the school, K through 8.
K through 8, and I know other towns have elected not to do it at the high school.
Right.
I just wanna make sure I understood correctly.
Yep.
years ago, we didn't have it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, more do than don't by far, but not everybody does. I mean, it's
I
a
mean,
size thing.
We,
usually.
one year, we didn't. We didn't, and it used to be a special article, and one year we just didn't do it, and there was quite an uproar, I mean, it was awful.
Well, I think it's really hard for working parents, I mean,
Well, and now with
and
the-
it's
they
not
didn't
in the
care at
same
time, It got
town
voted
and-
down and,
yeah.
and that point, remember, we had the kids going everywhere.
Well, we have block scheduling now too, like,
Mhm.
that's, some days I
But
drive
any
and
of those things that, I mean, you know, nothing's gonna come up unless they actually start talking about a certain amount they wanna cut. You have to talk about what that might impact. But the clubs or the sports, I mean, I had kids that played sports, and I can tell you, their grades were better when they were playing sports because they knew they had a structure. I mean, you,
Depend on who's
your
gonna come
kids play
involved, though.
sports and.
Everything does.
That's how I get
It's all
one of
you
my
can-
sons
who
to
you're gonna
pass.
get
The
out
result, I say this all the time, Doreen,
it's
the
important.
results of most of these
It's
types
all
of public
depends on who's gonna
meetings
show up.
are determined by who walks through the door, not what is said. And you can't control that necessarily, you just, you show up and you see. You've got a collective bargaining agreement for the High School Teachers Association, someone needs to make the motion, someone needs to second
Do you
that.
want me to move that, Eunice?
Yes,
You wanna second it?
I'll second it.
Eliza and Eunice for that.
Yep.
And on
And it will
on the
say-
slide, you've got sort of the main talking points right there.
And it will say that Alton passed it, right?
It does,
It
in a
does,
little,
yeah.
little yellow
Yeah.
circle
Oh,
there.
yeah,
Yep.
I see it.
It includes that there are savings in health insurance, which means savings in the future too.
Yeah.
The COLAs for the second and third years are listed there as percentages. And it gives sort of a rough idea of where it places us in the competitive
Yeah.
market to hire teachers.
Right, so Article 4, if we need it, it would be the same, like me and Eunice, right?
Yep. If we don't need it, you could just make a motion to withdraw, so.
Oh, right.
And then you have the support staff contract for the high school. Somebody has to move and second that.
I can do that, and Eunice can second it. And this one, we also changed the healthcare, correct?
And the talking points are almost the same because we're
Yeah.
aligning things, right? So now we have the
Yeah.
same healthcare for all employees instead of different things, same COLAs. And actually, the salary scale that the high school paras agreed to in this tentative agreement is the salary scale that Barnstead's paras already have for next year. So it matches.
And I think the important thing, Eliza, is, because at the budget committee, there was a question about the first year, how come it was so much more than the other 2 years? And that was because Prospect Mountain was so far behind
Right.
what we tried to match to, which was.
So it was to
Barnstable.
get it to the others,
Yeah.
and then it
Yeah,
evens
and
out.
then it evens out, yeah.
And I think hopefully people can understand, but when you have different ones with neighboring schools, it just means you're gonna lose people for a different school.
It used to happen, right? In
Yeah,
our
it
earlier
does.
years, we had staff looking to change among the schools
Right.
because one of our
And it's
schools
just
paid more than
silly,
one of our
like,
other
why
schools,
are we
and
doing that?
we're getting away from that.
Okay,
Or, I'm sure there was a time too when you could go to McDonald's and make more money, so.
There sure was,
You
but
could,
I
yes.
think we're getting out of that business, which
yes,
is
we're
nice.
better now.
What our
and-
paras do is a lot more demanding in some ways than
Agreed.
what they would need to do there.
So 6 if needed, it'll be.
You don't have to wear bite guards on your arms
Oh,
at
jeez.
a fast food restaurant.
It'll be me and Eunice if needed on 6.
Just burn.
Burns, yes, bites, no.
Who wants to do 7? Is there a committee for this? Do we have a committee?
So 7 is SAU merger planning. You haven't had shared services meet as a committee for a while, so I don't know if you have anyone in particular who's been in the middle of this, although we did meet with Jim O'Shaughnessy, Eunice, last fall. Who attended that?
I don't remember. I wasn't, I don't think.
Eunice
I
did.
did, and
Doreen did.
Yes.
Doreen.
Okay,
I'm not gonna be.
You're not
here
gonna be
Sat-
with us on Saturday.
no.
okay.
Eunice, I heard your name.
Well, I can
Yeah, I mean, I
make the
think any of
motion
us
or
would be fine.
second
Do
it,
you,
Yeah,
who wants to move it?
I can move it.
Alright, so Brandy will move it and Eunice can second.
And the point is, that it's just a study committee, and it's, I might be speaking out of turn here, but it's not necessarily a merger of what we have. It could be it could be new.
Right, it is not a committee to look at dissolving the two separate school districts. It is only to look at merging your central office services. You remain two school districts.
And it
You
might
have two
not
annual
be-
meetings, you have two budgets.
But I just wanna make sure I understand that it's not necessarily merging us to one of the existing SAUs.
It could be a total new number,
It could be a
right?
total new,
Will be, I think.
We've advocated already for that. The department's not sure because, so for the last 10 years, nobody's done this, they've only split apart. Nobody's merged, which is one of the reason the incentive grant exists, is because the legislature's trying to get SAUs to merge. But it would be a new number, is our understanding. If they used an existing number, it would be 301. It could not be 72 or 86. I just don't think we could possibly accept that.
but it's actually, it's only a study committee, but if we would bring it back next year, but if it was approved, it would be to unify the three SAUs for what we're doing now with shared services. And it just makes it a lot easier.
I think if you just explained that you're creating efficiencies. Yeah.
I mean, read the slide, right?
Yeah,
It's sort of
yeah,
already
yeah.
there.
Yeah, just.
And by the way, you're
creating
gonna get a $500,000 grant if you do it,
Yeah,
so
and
it's worth at least
yeah,
studying.
You're just creating the efficiencies that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that,
If there's a
Heidi can go home at night.
non-controversial item on this warrant,
It's a-
this should be
yeah,
it.
I would think so. Cause
You
right now
never know.
there's been a
There's
lot
no
of talk
cost.
about it, but I think it's the misunderstanding of what they're trying to do. So I think the clarity needs to be that this is just to create a committee.
That's it.
But the committee is looking at, the reason why the committee's looking at it is to create the efficiencies. Because if you look at it as a business practice, this is really not a good business practice. This is actually why.
Well, the old way of doing things here.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people now at least say, yeah, it never made sense. That's easier to say now that we've shown it can be done a different way.
Yeah. And that's basically, the simple way to explain it is just to create the efficiencies of a better business practice.
Alright, so,
Yes.
We'll use that.
Use that one.
So the last two do require sort of a description of what this alternative program, Granite State Academy thing is all about. I'm gonna suggest, especially since he's not here, that since Jason and Christy would have been the two people,
he already
Working
said
with me on
he'll,
it the most.
he'll
You make
move
him
it
release.
and speak to
Yeah.
both 8 and 9 if
Great.
needed, so,
Do
I,
you want me to second them
yeah,
since
that's
I've been
fine.
kinda quiet? Yeah.
alright, so Jason and Brandy for both of those.
and I'll work up those.
And it looks like we've got a fair amount on the slides,
There's a lot on the
but-
slide, maybe even a little less on the slide would be nice. But I also like to print these as handouts, which means people can sit there and kind of look at them at their leisure, which might be nice.
And then, wait a minute. So,
10?
yeah, but 10 on here says adopt SB 2.
Yep.
But 10 in here says extend open enrollment. I'm
Yep,
just trying to figure.
so it's wrong. So it is adopt SB 2. So that's a typo.
But 9 says establish revolving fund. What is that?
The slide shows correct.
Hold on.
Yep.
I'm just trying to figure. So.
So 9 and 10 in this.
Yeah, everything in the slideshow is correct.
Okay.
In your other handout, the language is right, but those headlines are wrong. Article 8 doesn't have a headline. It's the revolving fund.
Oh, okay,
See
I'm
that?
with you.
Article 9 isn't the revolving fund, it's extending open enrollment.
Okay.
I'm taking the notes on my draft here for Sarah to edit tomorrow.
And
so
we'll have
this'll
the
be-
right ones.
You're gonna get binders with all of this
Okay.
revised. Everything you have tonight is stamped draft,
Yeah.
and you should,
And you'll
throw
put
it in your
the
paper recycling when you're
Jason
done
and
looking at it.
Brandy or whatever, you'll
Yep,
put the
yep.
names
It'll
on
all
there.
be pre-printed on the sheets in your binder, so as you flip through during the meeting, and, oh, I'm seconding this, or I'm making this
Okay.
motion.
So, do we move?
So you don't.
10, 'cause
So
it's
by law,
ours.
and I met, by the way, with John Savage today,
Okay.
so he's ready for this. So under the law, when an article is petitioned, you neither took a vote to recommend or not recommend it, nor do you introduce it at the meeting. By law, the petitioner, the person who actually organized the thing and submitted it, has to be given a certain amount of time. I couldn't remember off the top of my head whether it's up to 10 minutes or up to 15, so the moderator's checking under the
was-
law.
It was 3 minutes, but maybe for.
But the law says, I don't know what happened at the town meeting, but I know the law.
Well, I know, I was gonna say, it's probably the law covers a special special
So,
law.
Yeah.
so it's either up to 10, I think it's up to 10 minutes. So John Savage is checking, and he'll just make sure that the gentleman understands how much time he has. And,
Did it pass the town?
They didn't put it
So
in.
this article was not submitted for the town meeting, it was only submitted for the school district meeting. That might not have been their intent, but it's what they did. And I've spoken
can
with the
that
gentleman who
happen?
did it, he knows.
It could happen, like, it could pass for one, but not.
Yes, you do not have to have the same form of meeting for your
Feels
town
that
and your
way.
school district, they can
I
do
would
It
that.
feels that way, yeah, town
they
is
are.
SB2, school is just regular school district.
You can do that.
Yeah.
So if this were to pass, then next year, instead of an annual district meeting, we would have a deliberative session and everything would happen at the election for the school district. And you'd still have a nice 6.5 hour town meeting.
They're not always that long.
It was last week.
Oh, so where do we sit?
So
On the floor.
It actually, you're not up where everyone can necessarily see you so easily and you can't see them so well, but you're also not 4 feet above everybody under those hot lights.
baking lights,
Those
yeah.
I came by Friday, late afternoon, the room I thought looked really good, and my feedback, at least from Saturday, was positive, that it worked out pretty well. I'm not aware of,
No, where I was
Negativity.
sitting, I could see all the selectmen, and it was interesting because people said, my friends were sitting with me, I thought we used to have a stage, what happened? And I get to say, well, the modulars went away, that's where we have music.
Yep.
So they were kind of impressed with that, so.
And
it actually
Eliza-
looks better.
Yeah, and Eliza being a little vertically challenged, we'll give you some pillows.
Yeah.
that you can sit
I
on
know
and
they want some
boost you up a
candy
little
down
bit.
I have a question.
Yes.
In reference to, the money that Pittsfield, I don't know if I can say it during this, but Pittsfield.
You can say it.
Okay, the town, it got voted down that they're not gonna pay us.
Yes.
So now does this go to court?
No, they've already paid us.
Well, how come the voters then?
So I had a conversation
Yeah,
with Jeremy Margolis from the Concord Monitor over the course of the last several days about this. I think you're gonna see something in the Concord Monitor. It's not a hit piece against the Pittsfield School District, that's not the point. But I do think that offering the public a little more accurate information about how this all actually has been working is important. So I'm glad you asked, because this wouldn't have come up tonight otherwise, so thank you. But it's
Well,
important.
I do read, I try to
Yeah.
keep abreast of what's going
So,
on in towns.
And you might even see something in the Monitor before Saturday about this, because we talked about it last week, and I sent him some documents yesterday.
I haven't seen it yet.
So, well, he hasn't written it yet, but something will be coming. So here's what really has happened. The total amount that we did bill Pittsfield the last 2 years and should be billing Pittsfield this year does amount to more than $250,000. If you add all those up, it does. But the first year and second year, they paid. They paid. We've already received the money. So any amount that remains for them to pay will be what we haven't invoiced them yet for this year. That's number one. Number two, Pittsfield continues to receive adequacy and differentiated aid from the state for their students who attend Prospect Mountain. And that actually amounts to more than 75% of the tuition they owe us. So the local dollars, right, the money that's not being given to them by the state to help pay this tuition is actually closer to a quarter of the amount that they've been invoiced. So we've shared all of this data with the reporter. The problem is it requires sitting down and paying attention and thinking it through, which, as open enrollment was a brand new concept, all the press was trying to do was figure out what it meant and explain it to people. Now that people have made some sort of wild claims in the press, now maybe it's time, this is what Jeremy and I have talked about, is maybe it's time for a little nuance. Maybe it's time to talk about, okay, but this much was given to them in the form of state aid, and if those kids had gone to a charter school or a private school, they wouldn't have gotten the state aid. They wouldn't have gotten a bill, that's true, but they wouldn't have gotten the state aid. So what's the real cost to the taxpayers? Ends up being about 25% of what we've billed them. And I'm
Right.
aware of the warrant article, and I can't explain it because I didn't write it.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying the town voted it down. is
I
what-
know.
I know, so that's why my question is, so where do we stand from here?
So we will send a bill, and
Okay,
the
'cause the
state,
town
the
voted
Supreme
down
Court,
not
the
to pay
Supreme
it.
Court has already made this decision.
I hear you,
Yeah.
but I'm just telling you.
I know.
They should have had an
We'll send the bill.
attorney,
Yep, we'll send the bill.
how could DRA
And
let
they'll pay
that
it.
article?
That's what's gonna happen.
So we'll look them over so
Yeah.
we can get them out next week.
Okay, and did you read the article today about the adequacy thing? It was
I-
on your opinion, it was on your.
I haven't been
Okay.
in the papers today. Which paper or which outlet?
Monitor,
Monitor.
it's in the
I'll
Monitor,
take a
they're
look.
talking about the adequacy and revamping it and trying to. I was there the day they introduced it, and I can honestly tell you, it has played out exactly the way when Shaheen and Hushin got up there, the entire building was filled, and they explained it all to us, and every business administrator and town administrator said the same thing. It's not gonna work, and we've had it now for what, 30 years? It hasn't worked.
And I think this is a good sort of overarching message for all of you to think about for Saturday. Here, in our work for this school district, waiting for things to change in Concord isn't going to help. When things change in Concord, they're gonna change. Or they're not going to change.
Exactly.
So either way, we deal in reality, and this is what we've been doing. We've been focused on revenues in a way that most public school districts don't. Some people don't like that, we get criticized for that. But we're looking out for the interests of Barnstead's taxpayers. I mean, that's what we're doing. So, no matter how people think they feel about an alternative online school for kindergarten through 12th grade, if 1,000 students from across the state end up enrolling in that program,
I think that's.
and you end up with 5% net margin of their revenue, that's $500,000 that's going to come back and help reduce the need for property taxes in Alton and Barnstead. And that's, again, whether these have all been great ideas or not, some of them have been my ideas, and I don't know if they're great ideas. But what's our purpose? We're trying to fund these schools. Right? We're trying to make improvements in this school, we're trying to pay for construction project, we're trying to do all these things to make this place as the best we can make it.
But the problem is it's
And
falling on
we
the
need
taxpayer.
revenues. Well, revenues are the solution.
Revenues
Revenues
are-
are our solution until the state wants to send us more money.
But the way that, it's not just us, it's the entire state, our whole way
Right.
we tax and support both municipal and education is antiquated.
Well, I think that's what Tim is saying.
Yeah.
We can't wait for Concord to change that.
No, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that
Now, if one of you wants to go to Concord and help change it,
they're,
I'll fill your
but
gas
the
tank.
town is going to sit there and say to us, we can't keep going like this.
Yeah.
I know it.
I'm not sure we disagree. Any
Yeah.
of you.
That's the good part.
I
We agree
mean,
with
I'm
that.
not, I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
Alright.
The last thing, and I have a note here in my draft, there's one more handout that I plan to create. So I love these line graphs that the law made us create, but there's one more that I like. How Barnstead's per pupil cost has ranked in the state. I've told you over the last 2 years. We were 12th last year, we were 11th lowest the year before. I'm gonna try to do 10 years worth of that and see where we've ranked in the state in how much we spend per pupil. And look, it's all information, right? It's not a threat, it's not to shame people, because we all understand, right? Taxes are expensive and everybody hurts, and these are legitimate concerns. But I do wonder sometimes, would the typical taxpayer believe it if you said, we're in the bottom 10% in the state in what we spend per pupil? It's a fact, but would people, without being told, they would not assume that. So they need to be told.
Anything else on the district meeting? No? Alright, so the school calendar,
Same conversation as last night. We've done a draft for the elementary school. We're looking at that half day. And then I plan to talk to all of our labor partners about whether that we do that first day on the Friday in August versus the Monday that we were planning on. Plan to come back to you with those answers in April.
so, like, doing the Friday in August before the week in August at the elementary school, what's the benefit? I thought the freshmen always went on a
So,
day without anybody else going to school.
That's what we've been doing.
Yeah,
We've been having freshman orientation that Thursday, I think, is
Thursday,
what we're
yeah.
doing. And they're the only ones in school that day.
yeah.
So this would be a change, and the idea came from a board member on the other board, and it was just, how do we protect against this late end of the year? I think that, I can guess what the feedback we're going to get from our labor associations might be, and that might help clarify.
What about the
Yeah.
alignment of other schools where you send kids like to the tech and stuff? How does that work?
So,
They always start later.
we're aligning
normally.
vacations, which is the main thing we can do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, cause even, I know, like,
They usually start right around the same time.
yeah, but we don't always start sending them to the tech right at the same time, or we
That-
haven't.
That district had a big kerfluffle over starting before Labor Day
Yes, I
this
know
year.
they did, and so, that's why I'm saying, that's,
I mean, I don't know, I haven't gotten the sense from our two boards that we want to be in the start after Labor Day and maybe have school July 1st business. I mean, you can't have school July 1st, you can only have school until June 30th, but our overwhelming consensus has been,
no.
nobody's interested in the last week
Yeah,
in June.
I don't think
Yeah.
they are either, but I was just.
Well, and I
Well,
think
they've boxed themselves in a little bit, haven't they?
Yeah,
by the
they
time
have.
you get into June, like, the kids are just, I mean, I think adults are done too, but like,
But not
they're
only
just
that,
done.
you're talking, you got Middleton and all those
Yep.
that are feeding into this.
And very few schools have air conditioning in their
I know,
classrooms.
it's hot.
It's not
and
typical,
Yeah.
and it gets hot there at the end.
So, I don't know if this matters, but my 2 cents on the Friday before the week does, I think it's silly. I think it's fine for the freshmen, it's a special kind of thing, they have fun, it's,
I feel like it makes sense
it
to
makes
start
sense.
on the Monday, and then
Yeah.
I realize that pushes the last day to be, excuse me, Friday, June 18th.
Well, that's only if it's a snow day, right? Or,
Well, no, if we move the first day, just kidding, we already have the first day on a Monday.
Right, we have the first day on a Monday now,
So that would be the one.
so it would only change if we change it.
Okay.
So that's not what we originally recommended. If we stick with our original recommendation,
This is
the
what
only
the
change
last-
would be the 4th becomes a half day. And we're gonna double check all the math and make sure the number of days in each month don't count. We probably made a mistake, we always do.
And so here, like, so the
We always do.
T1, the T2, like the last trimester days, those aren't half days anymore.
So those are not
Currently.
half days except at the midpoint of the year, the semester break,
So
which
Those
says
ones in
ER on it.
October, yeah,
Yep.
cause those are parent-teacher conference.
So one in October for the day before parent conferences, but at the semester break, which is January 22nd, there's one early release there,
Yeah,
and then the last day of school. So we have fewer early releases in this proposed calendar than we've had in others. And again, I've sent this out to our labor partners for their feedback, which we're required to do. So far, haven't heard a lot, but I'm going to be more proactive in making sure that I talk to each of them prior to coming back in April and asking the boards to finalize these.
Yeah.
And there's only, 2 election days in here, or there's 3?
There are 3. There's a primary in September, which is one of the things that complicated the
Oh,
beginning, right, on Tuesday.
And that November 3rd.
Then
is
there's
one.
November, then there's
Okay.
March. Yeah. 3 next year. It's great. Every 2 years. Welcome to New Hampshire.
But in the future, once the gym is fully functioning
Although
here,
it seems like it's worked out because from a professional development
It's actually made the
standpoint-
PD stuff a lot easier.
okay.
Because we
then
don't
I
have
was
these
just thinking,
random
like,
days in the middle of the year when parents are like, why don't we have school? And the answer is
Yeah.
teacher in service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, now we're doing it on election days. Kind of
No,
works.
I like this just as a parent, and especially when the kids were younger. I don't wanna speak for all, but when we had a lot of early release days.
used to be like
it's
once a
strategically
week, it
hard,
seemed
yeah,
like.
and
It
then
was
if you
tough.
have to pay for after, so I'm hoping, we've made some, you guys have made some changes for the better on that scope. Yeah,
Strong partnerships with labor.
yeah.
I'm serious, that's the
Yeah.
key.
So
Alright.
we're just waiting to hear back from them before we
We're
really
just,
approve
yeah,
this
that's
thing.
part of what we have to
Okay.
do and giving everyone a chance to, here's the other thing. There is this bill winding its way through Concord that would not allow schools to start before Labor Day. I just wanna make sure it dies a natural death before we commit to calendars and
I
have you
mean,
vote on them.
Some years I think that's
I
wonderful.
think we
but
all
wanna know,
agree.
just go visit the website and you can see all the stupid
Yeah.
bills that are out there.
I think we all agree that when it's just, you're talking about just a couple of days, like where the calendar falls, like, we're in the Lakes region, like, we all agree, like, that would be ideal.
I would- Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense for
Not
them
this
to
year.
go past
Cause you'd be
June
looking at
18th.
June 24th as the last day
That's just crazy.
if we start after Labor Day, with no
Yeah.
snow
It's
days.
tough, that's pretty tough.
We've gone
I
there
think we'd
before.
have a
Oh,
lot
I
of.
know,
Yeah.
I know, but it's
We've
like,
gone there before.
Alright, so we already did the planning for the annual district meeting, so, under personnel action.
So we have a teacher,
So,
and she has joined us.
is she a certified teacher?
So she's on statement of eligibility, which means she is allowed to legally be assigned to teach full-time, and we'll go through that process for certification. But again, when somebody is in that process, they can legally be assigned to teach. She's in middle school ELA, and I think off to a
Great start.
excellent
That's what I've
start,
heard too, so.
which is pretty awesome. We added a couple of, we added a paraprofessional, a one-to-one, and we got a new substitute in recently, so it's been a
Oh,
decent,
again.
it's been a decent couple of weeks.
Alright, so you need a motion on.
I nominate Dana House as she's listed as a building-based substitute, but we've actually assigned her
As
as an
the-
English language arts teacher.
Okay.
Alright, so motion to accept Dana House as the English arts teacher effective March 9th, 2026.
Second? Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And she's like 7th, 8th grade, is that where we needed that?
Mhm.
Okay, awesome.
Eliza, if I may, I'd just like to thank Kristen Brooks for her work with her. She's been putting a lot of time and effort. She came in on a Saturday to clean out a room and continues to work with her to do lesson plans and stuff like that to make sure that that transition's been a smooth one. Also, I'd like to thank members of the high school administration for coming over and helping support while Kristen has been doing some stuff in the classroom, so, been a team effort.
We don't, this has been a really nice thing this year, and it's about the people more so than the organizational structure. We don't tell Heidi because we're not interested in sending each other bills. This is about professionals just working together. But there have been times when Howie's gone over to Alton to have meetings and do various things with Janice and Jacqueline, when they've come over here. I think particularly, we've got some experienced administrators working at the high school. They've been able to go to the elementary schools at various times to help out with certain things. And just recently, like Matt's talking about, they were down here helping out with this transition, which is awfully nice. These guys get sick of seeing that in me. I know.
Well, I know as a parent that was told, like, kind of again, because this happened last year, but like, you know, mid-year, we're getting a new teacher, and seeing that Miss Brooks was going to be supporting and helping with the structure and the transition, I was like, perfect. Like, she's a great administrator, but a very missed and beloved ELA teacher, so that's definitely for the betterment of the children, so. Awesome. We're at our final public input. Seeing none, we'll close that. Any future agenda or follow-up items before we go into non-public?
8 o'clock Saturday?
Yes.
Okay, we'll see.
Here,
Reorganize it at next meeting.
yes. And that's not the right date, well, that's our school meeting, but,
Right, your next meeting is Saturday, yeah.
so, but our next school meeting, I think April's like,
It's one of those where,
Off.
we're
Yeah.
we're
So,
a week early.
April 15th?
15th.
Is that what you have? Okay, good.
Tax day, yeah.
So
Bless.
next
Bless.
regular meeting's April 15th. Any other future agenda and follow-up items?
We'll have action on the calendar, we will have calculated our hours for this year, and can talk about the actual last day of school so that families can make their plans.
Snow days. Anything else? No? All right, then I will take a motion to go into non-public. It's gonna be for C. We don't need A, let's see.
I'm gonna make a motion that we go into non-public session under RSA 91-A, Rule 2C.
Second?
Roll, or, is it roll call? Is that what I
Yes,
call it?
it's roll call.
Yes.
Roll call?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.